It's been a turbulent year for universities in South Africa due to no-fee protests, and there could be further challenges in 2017. Wits University has announced an 8% fee hike for next year. The Student Representative Council plans to challenge this increase. Joining us now to discuss this further, political analyst Lukhona Mnguni. He's currently advising the Fees Commission that has been set up to probe the feasibility of free higher education. Lukhona, thanks for staying on the line and for holding this afternoon. Firstly, this 8% increment that has been announced by Wits University, what's your impression of it?
Well, it's somewhat expected, but also unexpected, given the turbulence that has been experienced by the university in the last few months. Of course, it's 8% for most students, but 9.5% for Wits School of Governance in terms of the statement issued by the university. But I think if you read broadly the statement by the university, there's a discussion that needs to be had. And again, it's a discussion that needs to happen between universities and government, because Wits contemplates that it's going to lose about 54 million rands for 2017 in terms of their money that they should be getting from the state. And that's because the state has decided to take the 2016 fee increase and roll it into the subsidy. So now, which means the subsidy now serves two functions: subsidizing in terms of block grants and everything that the state gives to universities, but also infusing the increases and absorbing them through the subsidies. So now the subsidies are going to have less impact in universities than they would, because they now encompass tuition fees. And I think this is something that we need to talk about between universities and government, and say, now, look, that 54 million, if Wits were getting that 54 million, and if you look at the table that they give us, maybe they could have been able to give a fee increase of 6% or 5%. And that is within the region of talking about inflation and all of that. But now, Wits is saying if it doesn't have a fee increase, it will be in 191 million deficit. Now, I don't think we can ignore that, Kathy, in terms of the realities that universities face, in terms of the pressures that they face. But I do think that we need to say, did Wits try hard enough to have the conversation with government on the 54 million rands that they are going to lose before they could actually take the burden of that loss from government and send it to the students?
One of the criticisms that the Wits Vice-Chancellor had this morning, speaking to Morning News today, was that he doesn't feel that there's been accurate conversation taking place when it comes to the issue of fee increases and universities. I mean, do you think that we've just been merely addressing the issue of students protesting and perhaps not really looking at the state that the country's institutions are in and how much money they actually require to keep their doors open?
I think the vice-chancellors have been very much too self-absorbed within that structure of theirs, Universities South Africa, and they haven't been so willing to have a thorough conversation with society. There are so many people that they could be talking to and consulting. I mean, if you look at industry, some players in industry are thinking on how are they going to restructure their money that they channel to universities and also make a larger contribution. But there is a conversation that vice-chancellors must now come up to the table with, to society, and that's a question around transparency, Kathy. In terms of costing, tuition costing, residential costing, there are so many external factors that are included in the fees that have nothing with doing the delivery of actually giving education to the student. So there's a lack of transparency where that is concerned, and society doesn't really know what it is that we are paying for at the end of the day, and vice-chancellors need to be transparent enough. And we also need to have a communication around the issue of the wage bill of universities. How can we get smarter about it? But also, are we overpaying some of the people in our universities, and are they giving enough value back to the cause of the university in terms of its teaching, learning, and research aspect.
If anything, if Wits and perhaps even UNISA anything to go by, it looks like the other universities could also follow trend, at least speculation by some analysts that they could follow trend and hike their fees also at the cap of 8%. Lukhona, do you think that this is going to remain a hot potato, especially politically, going into 2017?
Well, definitely. It seems as if we are far from a solution, Kathy. Of course, a university like Fort Hare has announced a 0% increase for 2017. But of course, there is a reason why Fort Hare might do that, because about 90% of the students in Fort Hare probably fall below the 600,000 rand family income per student. So they are able to then say, well, 90% will be absorbed by government anyway, so why then go after the 10%? So they decided to have a 0% increase. Definitely in 2017, we are going to have a crisis, and that's for a number of reasons. Government has created too many sites of solutions for the problem on fees. So you've got the Presidential Fees Commission, you've got the Interministerial Task Team, you've got Blade Nzimande's Ministerial Task Team, which was led by Sizwe Masana, that has now reported back to the minister, and I hear a pilot project is in the pipeline for January 2017. And then, of course, you've got the minister himself and then the universities. So there are just too many people and too many sectors trying to find a solution to one problem. One of the things that we need to achieve in 2017 is to pull these efforts into one central place. And so that by the time you get to around August, September, when the commission's report is ready, the Presidential Commission's report should be ready about August, September next year. And when that report is ready, we all have a conversation around it. And if anything is to go by in terms of the interim report that was sent to the President by the Commission, I think we are starting to have important conversations, and I think the Commission might give us a useful report for all of us to gather around and have thorough conversation. But where it's going to hinge on is how the Vice-Chancellors handle the moments when we see sparks of protest. We are going to have protests around fees next year. There is no doubt, because if Wits is saying at 8% increase, they are still forecasting a deficit of 56.5 million. You can only imagine, Kathy, that in 2018 they'll have to make up for that deficit, but also try and avoid a future deficit. And we might be back in double digits in terms of tuition increases. And that cannot be accepted by the students, nor by society, because we know that our economy is not growing and people's salaries are not keeping up pace in terms of all the other living cost escalations that we are experiencing in society.
Lukhona, thanks for your insight this afternoon. Political analyst Lukhona Mnguni joining us on the line there. Your sport and weather is coming up shortly. Stay with us.